The big news for today surrounding the Chicago Blackhawks just announced a couple hours, not even, about an hour ago when we came on the air. Here's the official tweet from Chicago. General Manager Kyle Davidson announced that the team has relieved Luke Richardson of his duties as head coach. And Elliot Friedman, our good friend of the show here, tweeted a follow-up to that. Anders Sorensen will take over as interim coach of Chicago as the team fires Luke Richardson. Anders Sorensen, the coach from Rockford in the American Hockey League, the affiliate for the Chicago Blackhawks, as we now welcome in Elliot to the conversation. And Elliot, wow, we were surprised. We came on the air, heard this news, wasn't quite sure this was even coming down, and it's such an interesting point in time for the Chicago Blackhawks. But can you give us some perspective on why it was necessary to make this coaching change now?
You know, Catherine, I think Luke Richardson, he was in the final year of his contract guaranteed. There was an option for him next year, but he was in the final year of his contract guaranteed. And I think when you get hired at the point where Luke Richardson was, you know, it's really, really difficult to be successful. He got hired at kind of like the beginning of a complete and total rebuild. And I think after 2.25 years, I guess, the Blackhawks had just decided this wasn't the direction they wanted to go in, and they wanted to try something new. I think one of the things that we're kind of looking at here is that I think they want to take a look and see if there's some different philosophies that they can try, especially offensively. Look, they're struggling to score. You see it right there. They're 31st in goals per game. They're in the bottom third of goals against a game. But, you know, I think, you know, Connor Bedard is a really talented guy, and they need to surround him with better personnel for sure. But I think one of the things I really look at is there going to be a different way that they try to play to try to unlock the offense a bit. And that's why I think they made what made the change. It's just time to try a new way to play, see if that unlocks Bedard a bit, unlocks the offense. And the thing about Anders Sorensen, and I don't really know a lot about him, but I've spent the last about an hour making calls. The feeling on him is that he's a pretty interesting guy and potentially a pretty creative guy. And so I think what they're going to try to do is give him the rest of the season, see how he does, see if he can get an inside track on the job, and then go from there. But to me, I really do think this is a lot about offensive philosophy, and is there a way they can try to unlock Bedard even more and the Blackhawks offense?
So it sounds a lot, Elliot, like the majority of this decision was based on the fact that perhaps Connor Bedard, you know, lack of production from what we're used to seeing, definitely from last year, but only 5 goals this year. You know, what do you think that philosophy exactly is? Like, how can you possibly, you have the players intact, they're there. You know, it's not like you're going to bring in more offensive guys, but what would that philosophy entail as far as getting Bedard going a little bit more?
Well, you know, I think there's a couple of things. Like, number one, they moved him to the wing for a little bit, and you know, it was interesting. That happened after a broadcast we had on Hockey Night in Vancouver, where he had a really rough night in the face-off circle, and you could see his frustration, and you could see it in terms of like just how frustrated he was in terms of the way things were going for him. So I have no doubt that what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to say, okay, is there a way that we can play, or there's some things we can do with Bedard that could help push up the tempo, get the team moving a bit? You know, for example, one of the things that Nashville's done is they have in season tried to change some of their system. They were just here in Toronto, and although it's not going very well right now, they've done things like allow their defense to pinch, which they didn't allow earlier this year in the offensive zone. They've changed the way they break out a bit in terms of going D to D a little bit more instead of just trying to go up the ice. I think those are the kinds of things you're looking at. Like, is there something system-wise that Sorensen and the Blackhawks can try to get that offense going a bit? I think you're totally right about one thing, Catherine, that you know, the personnel is the personnel. You look at their young prospects, guys like Nazar, guys like Oliver Moore, like how soon are they going to be ready, not only to play in the NHL, but make an impact in the NHL? It's really hard as a young player. But what this says to me is there a way that Sorensen and Bedard and the players can connect to try to unlock the offense a little bit and maybe change the way they play a bit to make them a little bit more successful in terms of scoring goals?
Very interesting stuff. Elliot, always appreciate your insight. As usual, thanks so much for taking the time to join us on this busy news day.
You know, it's tough for you guys. My wife always says, the less you see me, the more you like me. You guys have seen me a lot this week.
We love seeing you, Elliot. You can come on anytime. We love it.
Take care, guys.
All right.